All right. Good morning, fellow revolutionaries. Good morning, believers and non-believers, citizens and non-citizens. I hope you're all doing well. I just on the way to the job, which, by the way, praise God. I literally have a dream job, and I get to design and illustrate all day. A big thank you to all of you enduring me getting here. Shout out to all my comrades from my former job getting me to here. And as always, thank you, to God and the Queen and her family for enduring the bitter ball mass that I was while at my former employment existences. All right, so I just got gas, and I can't help but feel that now would be a time to at least scratch the surface of what's going on. Now, in no way, shape, or form is what I'm laying down as factors contributing to the humanitarian crisis that we're all witnessing, but here's some factors to scratch the surface. You can obviously get your information anywhere. You don't have to listen to me. Not all newscasters have a 1970s haircut. Woohoo! But I can lay down some factors. Okay, one, the Ukrainian invasion by Russia. I don't know the best order to do this in, so let me just hit you with this. As it turns out, Russia has been doing dirt the same way that we have with our foreign policy. Maybe some of you remember how any of us who actually paid attention were scared out of our minds when Russia invaded Georgia, when Russia annexed Crimea. By the way, annex is just a fancy way for forcefully taking an area. Not to mention, Russia also has been using chemical weapons there and backing Syrian rebels, over in Syria, creating chaos and death there. Now, factors that you're definitely going to want to consider here. I mean, it's not like our country, invades other places or kills civilians or bombs places. Thank God that's not the case. So, one of the things that should probably be recognized here is that the war crimes that have been committed by the Putin regime, I mean, anyone who is paying attention over the last 15 years, the annexing of Crimea and Georgia, tanks, death, killing civilians as they fled. Everything you're hearing about what's going on in the Ukraine by Russia, they had already done in those other countries. Now, when it comes to what's happening in the Ukraine, please don't think for a second that I'm saying this is any worse or less. The crimes of both the government of our country throughout the years and the Russian regime under Putin. And don't think for a second that when that other guy got on the throne in Russia that Putin wasn't still in charge. But one thing that you do have to consider is that the killing of civilians, which is happening in Ukraine because the escape tunnels that have been put there for civilians to flee, they're being fired upon by the Russian troops. Now, if you even do 5 minutes of research on Crimea and Georgia when Russia took them forcefully and violently, and I don't mean he marched a couple people in there, I mean actual footage of artillery and tanks killing people to take those places. So, okay, well, what's the difference now? It's with the Ukrainian invasion. So, things that you're going to want to be painfully aware of. So, there's 3 political parties in Ukraine. And this is, again, I'm being extremely reductive here. There's the super liberal party that's like, yo, let's join NATO, let's join Europe, let's get on we're all part of a unified existence, which I'm not here to argue the good or bad, I'm just laying down some facts for you. There's the pro-Russia side, that would be 2, and then there's the, let's tend to our own-ish party. So, you got the one where it's like, let's just work on our stuff here at home, and then the pro-Russia party, and then the very liberal party that wants to join NATO and Europe and all that. All right. So throughout the different regimes that Russia has had, it's pretty much always been like the same thing. Very expansionist, much like our government, tell the people what they need to hear to justify violent occupations wherever they deem necessary. Okay, so Zelensky, God bless him, actually started out as a comedian before getting elected, and probably being able to be in front of the camera. Oh, by the way, definitely not a Nazi, Jewish. So, all right, let's jump around on some of the BS justifications that governments use. Weapons of mass destruction, we all saw that one, and that justified killing some brown kids. So what Putin has done here is Putin has presented that the country is been hijacked and run by Nazis, which, again, Jewish guy with Jewish parents running the country. So kind of gonna call cap on that one, Putin. So there is a far-right nationalist party that in the recent election got less than 2% of the votes. There's a mayor here or there in the Ukrainian territories that got elected. Now, I don't think I need to expand much that in this country there's far-right racist Nazi militias that happen to get into our government. But to say that that is the entirety, when we got women wearing hijabs, and finally we got minorities up in government wearing the hoop earrings. I'm not here to argue politics. I'm just saying you could easily say the same thing about here in America, that certain political parties with Nazi ties have gotten into places of power before, but it's not the entirety. So Putin has used that to justify also this completely insane idea that Ukraine isn't a real country, and they're mainly the Ukraine is actually Russian, which, by the way, Stalin systematically starved the Ukrainian territories. And big surprise, there was a bunch of Jews that happened to be there when Stalin decided to systematically starve that area. And after a bunch of them inevitably died from starvation, Stalin moved a bunch of Russians up in there to repopulate the devastation and pure evil of starving and killing off everyone in the Ukrainian region, which, much like Syria, Putin ends up, funding these separatist movements, which, hey, if you're going to pay me money and give me guns, you could probably get me to do a bunch of stuff too. So, much like Syria, in Russia, these pro-Russian movements are obviously getting the check somewhere. Now, fast forward, to the cap that Russia is getting from Putin to justify this war of Nazis running everything, which, again, there is a far-right movement, but that far-right movement, because they're crazy racist nationalists, are fighting the Russian invaders. Now, here's the thing about the Russian invaders. A majority of the ones that are going in there fall into 2 camps. Their average ages are 19 or 20. And we know this because the Ukrainians keep capturing them. So half of the reservists, and these are the reservists, which, by the way, Putin is running out of reservists to even send over there from Russia because his people are rebelling, rightfully so, against this horrible war. So what's happening here with that is the reservists that are being sent over there, average age 19 or 20, we're told you're going to be greeted as liberators to free them from the Nazis. And then the other ones were told, like, this is essentially like a routine military operation. So these ain't like the hardened, flip over a sheep and throw an axe, scary, super trained Russian soldiers. These are reservists, which, again, Putin is running out. And because, much like our country, has wars all over the place that require his troops to, go over and spread freedom or whatever. So, literally lied to the reservists that he sent over there with this idea that they'd be either greeted as liberators or this is just going to be a routine military operation. And by the way, those Syrian rebels that he's paying to cause chaos over in Syria, plans on bringing them over here into the Ukraine to fight the dirty wars because they know how to do urban warfare. So, all right. Now, when it comes down to the oil, believe it or not, like, Ukraine is in the top 5 of untapped oil reserves. So there's that. And, like, if you look up the numbers of their production and exports, I mean, it's insane what the Ukraine does. All right, so currently, sanctions. So Europe actually runs on the numbers will fluctuate given the day or month, but anywhere between 50 to 60 to even pushing 70% of dependency on Russia for oil. And that's all of Europe, okay? So the UN, all those countries, and the entire landmass of Europe, especially the UK, all them put together makes up for anywhere from 50+% to more than 60%, even pushing 70% of Russia's exports of oil. All right? So even though we took them out of SWIFT, even though, we did all this, it still doesn't change the fact that Europe as a whole depends on Russian export of oil by 60% even on an off day. So it's like, how much can you actually tell them to go F themselves? Now, the US, we depend anywhere, given the day or month, anywhere from like 5 to 7-ish% of relying on Russian exports of oil. So even if we were to be like, spam you, Russia, it would be more of a sanctimonious BS because we get our jazz from other places. And I guess we're just going to switch despotic regimes with Joe Biden by getting it from Venezuela. So there's that. So one thing that you need to understand is that, cutting them off from the SWIFT banking, cutting them off from being able to do business in these regards, it's next to impossible to fully sanction the exports of oil when Europe, again, we're talking anywhere from 50 to 60+% of consumption of their exports and dependency on their oil. So this is a little chestnut that seems to get breezed over. Another factor that I think you should all be aware of, and again, perhaps you already know this stuff, I'm being highly reductive here and passing over innumerable factors here. But one thing that I do want to make abundantly clear is that the use of chemical weapons, the killing of civilians, I don't mean to point fingers at governments who have justified, wars for freedom and the cap that we have been told, but we ignored and barely even shed any light on Russia causing the chaos that they are in Syria, on Russia annexing violently Crimea and Georgia. And it's now that we are turning our attention on actually recognizing the horrors that Putin is unleashing on the Ukrainian people. Now, one thing that I think should be made abundantly clear, he has had to go to such lengths of shutting down RT, Russian TV, and other media sources that are now coming over here, Canada, France is letting them pop off and all that. But the Russian people are facing 15 years in prison for speaking out, let alone protesting. And we're looking at almost 10,000 that have been detained, jailed, or imprisoned that are standing up against Putin. So the war is not with the Russian people. And like, you want to talk about bravery, it's like my Facebook got shut down. It's like, yo, your life gets shut down over there. And the brave Russians are out there facing almost 2 decades in prison to stand against yet another violent occupation of another country. Now, again, this isn't the full entirety of what's going on over there. I know this was kind of a longer video. This is not even the sprinkle on the crap cupcake of what's going on, but hopefully this is giving you the slightest bit of insight of what's going on over there. We're praying daily for the people of Ukraine. We're praying daily for the Russian people, and hopefully this sheds even a micron of insight on what's going on for you, which again, there's multiple sources for you to get information on this and perspectives. So, as always, love from the Queen and I, love from the Sniffs, and never forget that you are the revolution, and I'll probably see you up there.